So the question that I have is, are you building the business that you set out to create? So we ask this because a lot of the owners that I work with, they feel the exact same way. They essentially feel like almost as if the business is stagnant or that they're trapped in the business. They can't get away from the grind. And that's totally contrary to the reason that they started the business in the first place, right? They wanted wealth and freedom. They wanted future. They wanted to leave a legacy behind to their family. And that's just not the way it turns out. So the question that we want to explore today is whether or not you're the person who's going to walk away, leaving behind that business that they always dreamed of creating, or if you're going to be the person who, wakes up one morning and wonders, what are you doing? You never wanted to do this in the first place and you feel stuck. So come and explore that with us today. My name is Arthur Tew. You are with us at the Tenfold Founders podcast. We have a mission to equip faith-led entrepreneurs to build thriving trade businesses that serve God's kingdom. Cue intro music. One of these days, I'm going to say that, and there's going to be some really sweet intro music that jumps in, and my team will be very impressed, or I'll be very impressed because they've created it for me. But speaking of my team, I am joined today by my podcast best buds, Josh Staab and Sydney Andress. They're also partners and operators over here at Tenfold Founders. Josh, I'm so thrilled to see that you have chosen to show up today. Obviously, Sydney, you as well, but Josh in particular, because you had to suffer through like 5 hours of recording content with me yesterday. Something like that. I'm sure it felt like more than 5 hours.
It was good. It was only like 95 degrees out, so not terrible. Yes. And then if you guys want to see that, go to tenfoldfounders.com and you can check out the videos there.
Yeah.
I think they turned out good. I think it's exciting. So like Arthur said, our mission is to equip those trade founders, and we're doing a good job of that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know if any of the audience has ever had the experience of trying to record content, whether it's for your website or for social media. And for some people, it comes naturally. And I feel like I'm one of those people, and just for some additional background, I got started in the trades, but in theater. So building sets, setting up outdoor events, doing all kinds of stuff like that. And so I'm not unfamiliar with being in front of camera or being on stage or being in front of people. And I do a decent amount of speaking and talking, things like that. But for whatever reason, the camera is always tricky. It's like this cruel mistress that somehow breaks your brain the second that it turns on. As well rehearsed as you feel like you are, as good of an idea as you think you have, when you start trying to communicate it to the camera, it's like if you were to sit down in front of the Pope or something, you just get all tongue-tied and can't do it correctly. Sydney, you've got to be a master in front of the camera. You present so well. Are you rolling your eyes and wondering, why in the world Josh and I were left alone to do this?
Actually, yeah, I think about that every episode. Like, okay.
Yeah.
No, you're only saying that because I did this in college. So not podcast, but did on-camera stuff and all sorts of things.
Relations, all kind of good stuff.
Yeah. But no, I did theater as a kid. I didn't do it into adulthood like you. So I actually flunked out of performing, I guess you could say.
Well, it served me well. I would like it to serve me even better because there's plenty more content to come. Like Josh said, we were doing this for the Tenfold Founders website. Those of you who are joining us over in the community will get to see this content at some point. I'm pretty excited about all of that. But that is not what we are here to talk about today, although we are here to talk about something that's very Tenfold Founders adjacent, which is, are you building the business that you wanted to create? And it's like a simple question. And every time I ask a founder, every time I sit down with a new client that I'm coaching or working with, and I ask them that question, so what are you trying to do? What is the whole goal of this thing? What do you hope to accomplish? I say every time, more often than not, I get that blank look, right? The same look that I give when I get in front of a camera and I'm supposed to be, speaking freely, I get from them almost as if they'd never really thought about it, which isn't fair because of course they thought about it, but it's this subconscious thing. When you actually trying to find, why am I building this business? I mean, Josh, you're an entrepreneur. You've built a number of businesses in the past and you've helped other people start businesses. Sydney, you coach people. You've heard these same lines. I mean, if we go way back, Josh, back to like the Carolus days when you were, just starting out your apparel brand. Again, for you, those of you who don't know the backstory, I'll let you tell as much or as little of it as you want, Josh. But I mean, could you have answered the question? Did you know why? Why were you doing that? Why were you starting that brand?
I don't think so. And I think that's a big reason why it may have just kind of fizzled out. So Carolus was a surf brand. I grew up on the coast and loved to surf, still do. but I wanted to create out of that passion a brand. And I think, I mean, there are many reasons why it didn't necessarily take off. We had some good traction in the local community and it was fun, but the main thing is like we just didn't have that direction. So the why behind it, we wanted to make money, we wanted to be cool, we wanted to surf and hang out all day, but it wasn't enough when things got hard or when it's like, hey, do you want to work on this business and make it grow right now and maybe sacrifice some things? Or would you rather do X, Y, or Z that seems a lot more fun in the moment than pushing through because that why isn't necessarily centered?
So you asked, what is the why? And I already went over in the intro some of those canned responses, which are good responses. Don't get me wrong. I mean, to generate wealth, to build freedom, things like that. But they're kind of floating out there in the ether, right? It's hard to really wrap your arms around those things because wealth is a moving target, freedom is a moving target, your goal, like exactly what that looks like. One of the tools that I always try and get my clients to use, and those in the Tenfold Founders community will be very familiar with this because it's part of the first phase of the framework that we use there, is what does that ideal day look like? It doesn't stop there. It's what does the ideal day look like today, right? So you know what your day is, and again, the grind, dealing with angry customers, the late jobs, payables, receivables, all that stuff. Like, that's tough. But what does the ideal day look like today? And then what does the ideal day look like at some future distance, right? And that can be different. I don't prescribe one thing. Everybody's in sort of a different phase of life. So it may make sense to look 5 years out. It may make more sense to look 25 years out. But you got to try and actually picture that thing so that when you close your eyes, it's that happy place. Like, what is that sort of, Happy Gilmore, happy place that immediately pops into your mind of that perfect day that suits you? And then you have to start building to that. And as we sort of refocus back into, are you building the right business? The reality is the business has to be building towards that day or providing that day right now if you're already there. So, Sydney, when you're talking to brands, when you're talking to companies that we work with, and they're telling you, or you're asking them, and I've seen you do this before, what is your goal? And I know you're trying to dig more deeply than just like, what's the thing we're supposed to measure? How often are you able to direct somebody into the bigger goal? The reason we're running this ad is to do this thing, which will do this thing, which will get them here. And what do you do? How do you have that conversation? How do you direct that conversation so it gets bigger than just well, we want to generate 10 new leads this month, right? Because that's not enough. 10 new leads this month, you can do that over and over and over, and then wake up one morning and find yourself in a ditch, physically in a ditch, but you know what I mean. The depths of entrepreneurship, despair, whatever you want to call it. This is getting really dark. I need to go back to the question. What do you do, Sydney? How do you kind of direct those people to the right ends? Give us a taste of your narrative.
Yeah, so I think one of the easiest conversations to have is exactly what you're talking about. What is your overarching goal? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to make an exit? Are you trying to expand? Do you have a son-in-law that you want to pass this to, or a son that you want to pass this to? Do you have other partners involved? Just finding out the relationships first, and then figuring out from there, what do you all need to get to that point? And logistically, operationally, it's really imperative that you do set your business up for that eventual goal as soon as possible, because it's very difficult, I think, to try and, like, a lot of business owners have that hindsight being 2020, like, oh man, I wish I had structured things this way, or I wish I had done things that way. And oftentimes it takes somebody else coming into your business and asking you some of those hard questions, because you are in it. You're in the trenches, or in the ditch, as Arthur said. And you may not see exactly what it is that is holding you back. And so having other people to kind of be your sounding board and ask those questions that you've never thought of, or to even just say something out loud for the first time. I feel like it becomes real when you do that.
How many times have you, and I promised myself I wouldn't ever be the podcast host that invites people to the conversation and interrupts them constantly. So I'm going to do that, but I'm going to keep tabs on it so that I can earn demerits and feel bad about it later. But how many times do you read something in a blog, or if you go way back in a textbook, or you hear something on YouTube or whatever, and you're nodding your head going, duh, yes, of course I hear that. and then somebody asks you a very similar question in person, again, it's like you go blank. What that makes you realize is that it's sort of when you are listening to your favorite song and you can sing along as long as the track is playing. But if the track isn't there, then you're hump stumping immediately. You're just like fumbling. You can't really remember any of the lyrics and you kind of understand the tune. If you're running your business that way, then nobody's going to like the sound of your business, right? Nobody's going to want to do work with you. You got to have it down pat. You got to be on beat, on measure, on tune. You have to have the lyrics correct. And that takes practice, right? That takes having that conversation. And honestly, having the conversation in the mirror is great. Having the conversation while you're driving down the road is great. But actually, one of the things that I wrote down in preparation for this podcast was asking what you do if you feel like you're off track. Again, I'm not going to dig through it all right now, but what I was essentially going for is you make sure you have somebody that you trust, preferably like the Tenfold Founders community, but somebody that you trust that you can go to and actually have the conversation with, because those reps, having that conversation with them is going to ingrain it so that when you're thinking about your day and you're wondering, what should I be doing? You're not making decisions purely based on the idea that I got to get 10 leads this week. You're making the decision based on the idea that I want to be this person in 5 years or 25 years and I want this life. And that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that completely changes the way you run your business when your mindset or not deviates, but shifts from that constantly reactive, constantly trying to catch up phase into this proactive, very intentional mindset.
You do, Arthur, really well is you help business owners zoom out. So oftentimes, and I've seen this too, where they don't think they're big enough to need a bookkeeper, or they don't think they're big enough to need to invest in XYZ, like a better website or, something along their business, like what their needs are. And for you, I think you've been able to say like, hey, you're big enough. You're at that point where, do you think business owners just don't think like much of themselves in that regard, where they just are like, we're not there yet, always?
Yeah, well, okay. So while we're having a sort of a layering on a compliment sandwich, I actually want to go back to something that you said in response to that, which is you brought up relationships really early on. And then I talked about a specific relationship, but just relationships in general, benchmarking those relationships, the businesses that you are engaged in, that you really, really love are the ones that care about the relationships that they cater and that they cultivate. So your question, Sydney, ask it again. Where did you end up?
Yeah. So do you think that business owners may just constantly feeling like they're not there yet?
I think that, and I say this more from personal experience than anything else. And I'm going to swing this back to you, Josh, and end our round of compliments and accuse you actually of a bad habit right here live on air. You're welcome. So we're brothers in arms here. I think a lot of times it's a lack of trust. It's a feeling that like you've got to be the one to get it done correctly. And you start to think, well, look, I could go and have this person do this thing, but I'm so busy that there's no way I'm going to risk them doing it incorrectly and me having to teach them 3 times, because that's going to take 4 times as long as it's going to take for me to just do it right now. And this is where, I can't remember if we've talked about this in past podcasts or not, but this is where my love for bias towards action can get too far in the extreme, where you're constantly just trying to do the thing as opposed to leaning on those people around you to help you get it done. And again, not to throw you under the bus, Josh, but I know you and I are built the same way on that front, that, you end up doing the same thing. And so to answer your question, Sydney, I think that's a lot of it. Josh, have I falsely accused you? Do you agree that is maybe one of the
I think that's, yeah, absolutely. Because you're used to wearing so many hats. It's like, whatever, just like put on another straw on my back. So especially as an entrepreneur or a business owner, you're used to taking care of things, making things happen. And then Sydney, to your point of like, hey, I don't need the bookkeeper right now because I'm just doing it. And but what is the opportunity cost of that time where you're sitting there spinning your wheels in this, I was going to say crap, but I don't mean that as a slight to bookkeepers, but you're spinning your wheels on these tasks.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, you get it. So trying to do it all is, I think, both a blessing and a curse of somebody that's in the driver's seat. But yeah, ultimately, as you're going through those little things just start to add up, and then eventually you get to that straw that's going to break your back, and that relationship's lost, or something breaks even worse than the new hire or somebody else that you should have passed it off to. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's out of our depth for this particular episode, although I would love to do an entire episode on just opportunity cost and establishing, understanding, assessing opportunity cost. One of the very first things we tell clients when they get to a certain size, and it's different for different businesses, but just a hint, if you are fully supporting your lifestyle with your business, you're probably at the point now that you can go ahead and talk to a bookkeeper. You're probably losing profit, i.e. opportunity cost of you doing something, which the money you're not making by spending your time on this thing is probably higher the amount of money you would spend to hire a bookkeeper to do that work. And bookkeeper is almost the first thing. You're probably not that great at it. I mean, you might be okay at it, but you're probably not that great at it. And anyways, like I said, we're not going to go too deep into that after I've insulted our entire audience. I'll now run away and shift the question. What I want to do is ask, how do you know? How do you know if you're building the business that you set out to create, right? Because you have, again, let's say you do have a vision, or let's say you can see that perfect day. How do you know if you're actually trending towards it? And I've got some responses, but Josh, Sydney, if you want to jump in with anything, like, please go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a lot of time. Yeah, go ahead.
Sydney crushed it with the goals, like just getting down to the goals. The short answer is goals, and then what are the KPIs or the key performance indicators that you're tracking to get there? And it doesn't necessarily have to be monetary by any means. It could be time-based goals, family goals, community goals, etc. Money is typically where everybody's head goes first, but that's the easy answer. We definitely expand on that.
Well, it's one of the best answers, but it's actually a really big answer, right? The big answer is work backwards from where you want to be, right? So in order to get to Z, you got to get through the other 25 letters in the alphabet, and you got to do them in the right order, or else you sound illiterate. And it's the same thing. You don't want to sound entrepreneurially illiterate or look that way. So you need to actually build the roadmap in the right order to get there, and then pick the metrics and the key indicators, KPIs, key performance indicators, the goals that you're going to be able to benchmark yourself along the way. So that's a big answer, and it's everybody should probably do.
Yeah. Just with that too, so the way we're talking about it is build the right KPIs or build the right goals. There is no single answer to, so for anybody listening, like, your business is unique. And I mean, granted, depending on if you're a plumber or HVAC professional, I mean, you're servicing the same product or the same customer or same type of customer day after day, but still, it's difficult. So I think when we just have to be careful saying the right goals. It's right to you. It's going to take that introspection and the why, and there's so many layers to this, but I think it's an important point to bring up is that there's no single right answer, but there is almost a collective answer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it makes sense. I think that it's gelling. We call this benchmarking, essentially, and benchmarking is the sixth phase of the framework. So I'm glad you brought it up, just so, again, I can continue to plug every opportunity I get. But the sixth phase is benchmarking. I'm trying to think, I don't want to discourage anybody from starting the work. Because if you're ready to start working back, do it. Go ahead and go through the exercise. 100%. You're probably going to want to do it a bunch of times. But in order to really get it right and make it durable, there's a bunch of things that you have to go and get correct first. So for sake of this conversation, we're talking about first, understand why you did it. And then 6 major architectural phases away, you get to the KPI piece.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happens in between there. And so if it doesn't make sense to you, or if it feels hard to do that, it should, right? There's a lot of groundwork to lay before that. So here's maybe a couple things that are, in my opinion, more simple, just quick gut check things that you can do, right? So Josh has given you the golden rule. That's the gold standard for, are you moving in the right direction? Work backwards, understand where you're trying to go. Some really simple things is just ask yourself, you had a lifestyle before you started your business. You grew up with a lifestyle. You grew up admiring people that had certain lifestyles. And I'm not talking about, saying, you want the same life as, I don't know, Joe Rogan or some famous person, something within reason, right? Within grasp, not that you can't ever achieve that. Any of you could. But is your business supporting that lifestyle, or is it moving you incrementally closer to that lifestyle? If the answer is yes or no to that, If the answer is yes to that, then you're probably already in the right place. But even if it is yes, if it's not allowing you to live the most honest version of yourself, and I shy away from the word like the authentic version or whatever the popular phrases are now, but are you being an honest person who is laying their head down on their pillow at night and being satisfied with who you are? When you go to pray to your God at night, do you have to repent for the way that you're operating your business? I mean, I know that's a tough, loaded thing to ask yourself, but you know, if you're at the end of the day, feel guilt over the way you're operating your business. And if you do, then it's not the business. It's not the business you're going for. I'm not saying that we don't all make sacrifices from time to time, but that is an important one. Sydney, do you want to jump in? Want to throw any that you have in mind?
So, from an operational perspective, too, have you created a job or have you created a business? So, if you were to ask yourself, could I step away for 2 weeks and my business still run? If we get a lead in, can the rest of my team know what to do when that lead comes in, take it from point A to point B without any involvement from me? Can invoicing go out? Can, all these other things, like my husband gets pulled into making sure payroll is done, and
Yes.
there's like some other small things where like he's replacing a ceiling tile, he'll jump in and do that. But he has also set up his systems so that his managers know exactly what to do when a customer comes in and they complain. There's another business I'm thinking of here in Tulsa called Free Spirit Chiropractic. We go there, my daughter and I. And the owners are both doctors, but they have doctors working for them. The rest of everything is done by their team. And they have set up a system where they can go and, like, they're in Mexico right now for a wedding, and their business is running without them. It's humming without them. And I think some of those things those might be some of your goals, but again, like if you're creating work for yourself, then that is the job and not a business.
Look, if you want a business that is at all, you've got to be able to do some of those things. I think what's interesting about your answer, Sydney, and I'm committed now, I'm going back to the framework every chance I get, but phase 4 and phase 5, you just hit on both of them. So step 4, the blueprint, step 5, the build. The blueprint being, what is the team that you need under you to make the business work, to make the business grow and be scalable? And then the build. So what are the standard operating procedures that they need to have taught to them or that they need to create in order to know exactly what they need to be doing under any of the normal operating conditions within your business? And so I want to say something really about what Sydney just said, which could be, and of course, Sydney would never intend this, but if you're not there, if the business couldn't run without you, if you're too small, if you don't have a team, like that's totally okay. That's where everybody starts. That's awesome. You're doing the hard work. You're doing the things that you need to get the business running. And everybody has to make trade-offs, right? So that's okay. And you can't just go hire your next employee if the revenue and the profits aren't there to do it. You have to get there first. But what you can absolutely start working on today is to build out those standard operating procedures. You yourself need your own standard operating procedures. You need the things that you do, and they need to be documented. And this is, I'm sorry, but I got to go full circle. This is what we're talking about. Go get the bookkeeper to do your books so you're not staying up late at night trying to organize your ledger, and instead write your SOPs out. That way, when it's time to hire somebody, it's like, here you go. Here's the manual. Here's your job. Go do it. And they're off and running. One of the biggest mistakes we see people make all the time in business is they go hire somebody thinking that, okay, poof, I've got that off the table, but they don't actually teach them how to do their job. And then they think that they made a bad hire and they let that person go. But sorry, you were not a good employer. You didn't employ them properly. You didn't do the homework. You didn't build it all out so that they could come in and be successful. So love that thread. I just think that those are such important points. Rounding it out for my list, I had 4 main things on there. We've been over 2. Does it pull you away from the things that matter the most to you? For probably most of our listeners, family, faith, right? Leisure, fitness, fun, like all those things are important to us as individuals. If this is you, it's 6:45, you're sitting down to eat dinner. And the first thing you do when you sit down is reflexively pick up your phone and check to see what you're missing or what you need to do or what your schedule is or whatever it is. If you're constantly doing that, then that's an indication that your business needs some optimization. It's not an indication that you're in the wrong business or that you shouldn't be running your business or anything like. In fact, it's actually an indication that you should be running your business. That means you have business, right? That means your business is calling you. That means your business cares about you. That means your business needs you. And that's awesome. So these are great indicators that you're going in the right direction. But nobody wants to not be able to sit down with their wife and children or their parents or their brothers and sisters or their friends and be able to enjoy a meal without having to respond to their business. So we got to get those priorities in order. And then finally, the thing on my list was, and we kind of teased this a little bit with the prayer comment, but are you able to have or talk about your business honestly with the people that you love and care about? Or do you find yourself sitting down in front of your wife or your friend or your parent or somebody else and hearing yourself kind of make up stories about what's really going on in your business? Most of these things are on my list because I have been right there. I've found myself doing it and finally woke up and been like, I'm not being honest, right? Like I'm not telling the truth about where my business is. And again, it's almost reflexive. You're very defensive about your business, but you start talking about how your business is doing and it's like you just make up this story, or you put this filter on, right? Like the rose-colored glasses to describe anything. So I don't want to name names, but Josh, Sydney, I know you've dealt with other businesses where you ask them and other owners, because those are the circles we run in, and they're telling you how their business is going, and you're going, "Gosh,
it's hard, especially when you pull up like Instagram or something and see everybody doing so well, like the compare and despair. So I think it's just a natural part of the cycle of business.
Yeah.
So you're either in those peaks or valleys, and when you're in the valleys, it's hard to potentially talk about your business and where you are. So one thing, I know we're going to get back to goals, I think, but make sure as the goal setting, like even if you're in that valley now, just what's the next step to take the first step, not necessarily, I've got to go from rung number 1 on the ladder to rung number 10 in one jump.
Mm-hmm.
The way to dig yourself out of that quagmire is to just take that first shovel.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. I want to start to close this out. For those of you who are out here that are listening, that are building their business, step 1, ask yourself the question. Just be honest with yourself. Ask yourself the question. And if you can't answer the question, then go through our list, right? Ask an outsider, talk about your business, see if you're being honest. Are you being pulled away? If the answer's yes, those things exist, and I am struggling to build that business, or it doesn't actually appear that I am, start building the business that you want to create, right? Build your standard operating procedures. Define what the business is supposed to ultimately look like. Understand who you are and what your lifestyle wants to be. Build that perfect day. Go do those things. And I know that this sounds like it. When you hear these things, you're thinking, yeah, but I should probably just go mow that yard, or I should probably just go install that refrigerator, or I should probably just go wash that house, or whatever it happens to be. I get it. You should go do those things, especially if you've told somebody that you're going to go do it. Number 1 rule of service businesses is, show up when you say you're going to. But maybe stop doing the bookkeeping. Maybe go get a bookkeeper for a couple $100 a month, let them do it, and spend a few more hours actually understanding your business and what you're trying to do. So hopefully that's useful. We love this conversation. I love the impact that it can have on the business. We love all you guys that are listening. And Josh, if you don't mind, I would love to have you just pray us out, and we'll wrap it up there.
Absolutely. Happy to. God, we just come before you today just in praise and thanksgiving for this opportunity to talk and to just reveal the wisdom that we have, and that we are just excited to share. Lord, we know that it comes from you. We know that you are moving our minds, our lips, our hearts. Just help us to impact those that are listening. And God, we just also pray for our listeners. We just pray that you reveal the steps or that immediate next step to the path that they're looking to be on, to essentially their dreams. We know it sounds cliche, God, but we know that you have big things in store, and we're excited to turn the page and see what happens. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is Tenfold Founders. Come visit us at tenfoldfounders.com or tenfoldgrowth.com. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to you with the next episode. Bye-bye. Hey, I just wanted to add one more message. For those of you who just listened to this episode, if things are sounding hard, or if you feel like you are in the depths, or things are challenging you, you're wondering what the future looks like, I just want you to know that you are putting the time in. You're listening to podcasts, you're clearly educating yourself, you're doing the hard work that most people don't. Okay, so look back, see where you started, see where you are today. The future may be uncertain, but one thing that is for certain is that God loves you. God loves the work that you're doing. And if you stay strong and focused, you will build the thriving business that you set out to create on day one. Thank you.